YouTube, you are severely hampering my ability to express myself by not being able to swear in the first 30 seconds of a video. Give me a friggin' break, come on y'all! How am I supposed to properly express the feels of this episode without dropping all the F-bombs? I'm Gayfesh, and today we'll be talking For All Mankind, Season 3, Episode 10, Stranger in a Strange Land. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We are in the season finale, so we have all of the spoilers. Naturally, we're gonna have some big stuff to talk about, but as stated previously, I have to wait to swear, so let's talk about the other stuff first. We'll start with the politics. I've been a little quiet about how this show handles the Republican Party because I've been waiting to see if the season actually has the balls to go there. But we're here, so let's go for it. I understand that the focus of the show isn't on federal US politics, but the show chose to go there. Not just that, they made a main character a Republican president, and they waited basically until this episode to have anything to say about it. And what did they have to say? That the Republicans want to impeach Ellen for being gay. That's it. That's all they had to say. After last season, when they portrayed Ronald Reagan and Lee Atwater as morally neutral agents, all they're gonna give us is that they don't support Ellen being gay. That's it? Playing softball with the Republican Party up to this point was a political decision. We never even saw a moment where Ellen struggled with signing on to this party despite being gay. Literally, the only thing we get is a single scene where the evangelical vice president plays nice for 30 seconds until she calls him out for it. If the writers wanted to call out the Republican Party, they should have called out the Republican Party. This is some milquetoast weak sauce. Sure, they acknowledge here that the Republican Party is more homophobic than the Democratic Party in the 90s, but so what? We already knew that. Go big or go home. At this point, the only thing I care about in regards to the politics of the show is what happens with Ellen and Pam, and we won't even get an answer to that this season. So we might as well turn our attention over to the real focus of this TV show, space. As I predicted last week, I was right. The North Korean dude was the first person on the moon. His name is Lee Jung-gil, and we actually spend the first 10 minutes of the episode with him. His co-pilot died on landing, and his damaged antenna prevented him from contacting North Korea. He's been spending the whole time eating canned food and looking at a photo of his wife while he's convinced he'll never make it home. And just as he's about to end it all with the gun he's been provided, Danielle and Gregory show up at his capsule. And even though he's got them at gunpoint, they quickly overpower him. At least they take him back with them as well as the component they need for the MSAM. I also appreciate that they bury his gun under the Martian sand. Let's not start militarizing Mars like we did the moon. Kelly needs to give birth right away, but the MSAM won't have enough fuel to even reach the Phoenix for another month. Even if the MSAM is empty except for Kelly, they'll only get 95% of the way to Phoenix. But Aleida comes up with the solution. If Kelly's in an EVA suit and they load it up with extra fuel canisters, she could serve as her own second stage craft to get onto the Phoenix. Gotta say, considering they spent time last episode wondering how Kelly would fit in a spacesuit, the fact that the solution to get her onto the Phoenix involved an EVA suit with no discussion about her belly bump feels like a writing oversight. Everyone else on Mars is willing to stay and wait for Sojourner 2 to get home in order to make sure Kelly and the baby are safe. I'm probably gonna piss some viewers off with this one, but I have to say it. Kelly, if you had aborted, this whole crisis would be over. This was not a situation where it was okay to have a kid. And it bugs me that the show never even brings it up as a possibility. Really, all they would have to do is have the doctor say, I do not have the medicine to induce an abortion, nor the facilities to perform one, to put that option to bed. Like Ellen joining the Republican Party, we're just supposed to passively accept these decisions. Because the whole plan to have Kelly's EVA suit be a second stage requires her to be outside the MSAM, they still need someone flying the thing, and landing with basically no fuel. Ed volunteers to do it, after all, it is his daughter and grandchild. Danny offers to be the pilot in Ed's place and confesses that the accident was his fault, but Ed won't let him use this as some absolution for his crime and insists on flying it himself. Danny, meanwhile, ends up exiled to the North Korean capsule for his crimes, spending his days eating canned food and looking at a picture of his wife, like Lee before him. I will say that Danny should not be trusted with anything, but for them to isolate him like this is cruel and unusual punishment in my book. Molly returns this episode. First up, Karen shows up at her place hoping to talk to Wayne about the CEO position, but Wayne is not appearing in this episode. So Molly is there to give her the tough love of, you want the job, be a little selfish. Then she comes back to NASA because Ed needs some assistance in plotting the landing of the M-SAM with such a low amount of fuel after getting Kelly to the Phoenix. At Helios, when Dev learns that Karen has been approached by the board to replace him as CEO, he tries to get the staff to leave the company with him to start over, but when Karen points out he doesn't have the capital to maintain their income and their stock options wouldn't be vested, that whole plan seems to peter out. Margot is told by Roscosmos that they have an agent in the FBI and she is being investigated with the cooperation of Aleida. Margot, to her credit, doesn't try to gaslight Aleida any further, but does try to get her back on track, helping the astronauts get back home. Margot gets a call from Sergei that he and his family were able to get out of the country, which is great for them. I'm glad he's no longer living in a KGB prison, but with Margot being investigated by the feds, it's unlikely they'll ever get to be together. The space maneuvers work great, Kelly gets onto the Phoenix and has a safe birth of her Mars baby, and Ed lands back on Mars. He's a little banged up, but he'll be good to go. On Earth, however, things are not so hunky-dory. Jimmy and his conspiracy nut friends sneak onto JSC posing as press. Jimmy is not 100% in on what they're up to, and when he suspects they've got criminal intent, he tries to call Amber to let her know before they knock him out and tie him up in their van. Still, his message to Amber is enough to alert Karen, who gets Jimmy out of the van but finds that it is loaded with barrels of explosives. When she warns security, one of Jimmy's buddies sets it off. It blows off a wall at JSC and results in the deaths of potentially hundreds. Among the confirmed dead are Karen and Molly. Margot is not found among the rubble, but it is implied she has died too, until a flash forward to 2003 shows her living in Russia. Unlike the flash forwards from the last two finales, we don't get a hint of what's coming next. And honestly, that makes things more interesting. It could go anywhere from here. But that's where the show leaves us. What do you think of the finale? Were you satisfied? Let me know in the comments below.
If both Karen and Molly are dead, the show had better come up with a solid reason to bring Wayne back next season or I quit.
You'll be back anyway.
But I won't be happy about it.
Yes, you will. You'll enjoy it.
Stop undermining my point.
Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my Patreon to get shouted out in future videos. Check out my Bandcamp for banging tunes, including all the tracks you heard in this video. Follow me on Twitter at GayestFesh, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Rest of Both Worlds, where I go through Star Trek The Next Generation with a friend who's never seen it. Thank you to all my patrons, with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Renee Vorbeck. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you all in the next video.